Montana, a Bugatti from Montana. Bloomberg published an article about this.
Mike?
About Montana, not Mike himself.
Oh, okay.
But his organization. About Montana and all the supercars and all the cars in general that are registered in Montana. And I wanted to highlight a couple of interesting things. Number one, Montana has 2.7 vehicles per driver, which is by a wide margin the highest. This is registered, of course.
You see a lot of cars from Montana.
They're not actually operated there. And the other thing the article got into was luxury vehicles registered in Montana by make. In 24, Montana had 10,757 luxury cars. This is Aston Martin, Bugatti, Ferrari, Lamborghini, only the top, 10,077. Washington State, next door to Montana, 2 states over, had only 2,479 of these cars registered.
Montana, the large state, a lot of land.
Washington, which of course is much more populous and much more wealthy.
I'll tell you what, the people in Montana, they have 2.7 cars per person. They are some serious heavy metal in Montana.
lots of Aerons. Sure.
Lots of it.
Last year, this by public record request, they pulled this. Montana had 31 Paganis registered. So yet Washington State had 0. Montana had 131 Bugattis registered, and Washington State had 0. 131 Bugattis. There's only, there's 400 Veyrons and 400 Chirons. There's only 800 of these cars, right? Give or take, maybe 900.
Well, EB110.
Montana's got, then there's a few EB110s, which are all registered in Montana.
It could be a Type 57S register there. You don't know.
It's really actually pretty impressive. 920 Rolls-Royce in Montana to 155 in Washington State.
Wow.
9 to 1.
I mean, we knew this was true because people register their cars in Montana to avoid
sales tax and any sort of emissions and inspection. The thrust behind the article was that more and more states are coming out after these people. Well, California is always given as an example of this, but in this particular article, it said that California has managed to claw back like $1 million in abuse, and that's nothing. That's one of these.
That's not even.
But it said also that Utah specifically passed a law targeting Montana. And it went into the specifics of the law, but they are quite
fascinating,
quite targeted, trying to get these people. Now, it's a little harder in Utah, I imagine, to enforce because Utah's pretty close to Montana. Right. But nonetheless, you're driving around, you see a Lamborghini, and you're in Salt Lake City in Montana plates. It didn't make the journey.
It tracks.
Even though we knew this was happening, because you see Montana plates on new 911 turbos, for example.
Yeah.
Every Ferrari 458.
Yeah. Every McLaren.
Every McLaren. You don't think about, the numbers are staggering. That's so many. That's got to be half of the Bugattis in the U.S. are titled Montana, if not more.
I think 80 or 90%. I got to be honest. I have a VIN list of every Carrera GT, and I went through and started Carfaxing them because I was curious. And it's not even worth Carfaxing them anymore because I don't know where they are. That's impossible. Every one of them is titled in Montana, except for mine. They're all titled in Montana. Yeah. And so it's insane. Any Carrera GT that's transacted in the last 8 years when the values started to get high, registered in Montana. Now, have any of us done Montana? I did in the past, but I don't have any Montana.
I'm as legit as can be.
You don't. You obviously wouldn't. You would never.
Why would I? My car is worth 10 grand. I don't need to.
But we know some people. We've heard some stories.
We are familiar with people that have done it.
We're familiar with people who have done it.
I'll be honest. If he had a Montana tag on one of his cars, people just think he was a local who's got away from Montana. You actually live there and now you live there.
Well, you can do it on a cheap car, but it doesn't make as much sense. I'm not surprised to hear that more states are trying to go after this. The amount of revenue is unbelievable. The article specifically quotes some DMV administrators. In fact, they interviewed a guy who was the head of the DMV in Iowa, and he said, we've called Montana, and they're like, we're only going to provide to you what the law says we have to provide. Montana likes this.
Of course.
They make revenue.
Tax revenue. And it employs a lot of people that run freemontanallc.com.
Yeah. But so the states have basically decided they can't go after the Montana. They actually have to go after the individuals within their state. Yeah. And it gives many examples of states doing precisely that. And Montana's the only state that ever comes up when this is being discussed. It's so funny.
Vermont for a while was the state where you would do a cheap imported car. Right. Because you didn't have to go. You didn't
need an address.
And they also didn't do a title deed registration. There were a bunch of small benefits. That's gone. Vermont has stopped that.
They claim they won't do that anymore, but I've heard of it happening still.
But they've tried pretty actively. Montana's clearly said, no, we want that money.
The one thing I'm always astonished about is whenever this comes up, and you're going to see it in the comments of this too, whenever this comes up, there's always a lot of people who defend the Montana folks. A lot of car enthusiasts defend, as if the state laws on sales tax are trying to hamper car enthusiasm. And I find it very funny that a lot of people, especially YouTube and Reddit and Instagram commenters, are willing to stand up for people with $1 million cars and say, that would be insane. I would never pay $100 grand for sales tax either. I get the argument, I guess, but it's like, it's interesting to me how many people who have a Dodge Charger will stand up and like advocate for a rich guy who could probably afford to pay the taxes, but chooses to in most states, evade, not just avoid, but like it's literally against the law. They're just hoping they don't get caught.
Yeah, there's some cognitive dissonance there.
Weirdly.
Sure. Weirdly. That's interesting.
So anyway, Montana crackdown. We always hear this every few months. I don't know if it ever goes anywhere, but there are so many cars.
The numbers are staggering.
I see a lot of it for smog, which is another reason why I'm convinced that if they did did the Leno's Law thing, California would just make money. There are so many cars in my neighborhood, guys with old Land Cruisers and guys with old Suburbans and stuff that just have Montana plates, still drive them in California, but have Montana plates, not to avoid taxes because those cars are cheap, but there's no smog laws there.
Right. Or they buy property in one of the counties in California with no smog.
Well, potentially. I mean, that
a little niche there.
It is niche to do that, and you still have to do smog at title transfer if you do that.
True.
And your stuff gets sent up there. I mean, it's annoying. So anyway, Montana crackdown. Are you afraid?
No. Turns out that I just run California plates on my cars.
What if you got something nice? What if you got a Viper? You're not passing smog.
Dare to dream. You don't have anything to worry about. I don't have anything to worry about.
You no longer have anything to worry about. Some of the other people that you might know from the podcast.
Okay, all right. Move on. It's interesting to hear about this. Always interesting to hear. I'm always curious whether this happens, and I'm also curious to hear all the people complain that we are anti-car enthusiasts by saying the Montana thing is silly and shouldn't be done. Ultimately, if you want to change if you're annoyed by the tax laws, the way that a democracy works is you elect people to change the laws. You're just annoyed that you have to pay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Aren't we all?
Aren't we all?
Yep.
Debt doesn't just show up one day. It builds little by little. Credit cards, car loans, medical bills, and suddenly you're juggling payments and feeling stuck. But here's the good news, you're not stuck. You just need a reset. At American Financing, they help homeowners like you every day. They use your home's equity and roll that high-interest debt into one simple, affordable payment. And they're saving homeowners an average of $800 a month. No judgment, no pressure, just real solutions that put you back in control. Imagine breathing again, sleeping again, knowing your future is yours to shape. It starts with one call, and it only takes 10 minutes to get started. And there are no upfront fees, so it costs nothing to find out how much you can save. And if you start today, you may be able to delay your next 2 mortgage payments. American Financing's salary-based consultants are ready to listen and ready to help. Take back your peace of mind with American Financing. Call American Financing today, 866-885-1881, or visit americanfinancing.net/Doug. Check out americanfinancing.net/Doug or call 866-885-1881 to learn how homeowners are saving $800 a month on average. NMLS 182334, www.nmlsconsumeraccess.org.